咁或者呢個時間，不如我哋先問下我哋嘅演員 Ellie 先啦。係啊，佢就係飾演 Helen。咁或者你喺呢個演出，咁其實你都今次係重演都有份幫手啦。其實呢兩次嘅演出有冇咩嘅感受唔同，或者有咩想分享？
係，我係自己有咪嘅。演出咧，上一個演出已經係2年前啦。咁咧，2年前嗰個演出咧，我就係年紀就輕2年啦。咁咧係比較擔心，即係我又唔係專業人士喎，即係但係人哋係本身係律師嚟嘅喎，咁我擔心我唔夠成熟咁樣嘅。咁我個人咧又係即係雞仔聲啊咁樣，跟住 QQ 啊咁樣。咁咧，所以我嗰陣時即係2年前都幾努力去試下成熟啲去做呢件事。咁2年後我真係成熟咗啦，即係年紀上都真係成熟咗2年之後咧，即係喺我自己再讀嗰個劇本嘅時候，得着又大啲啦，因為我真係經歷咗2年嘅事情啦嘛。然後嗰2年其實仲係好難添，因為我係正畢業之後就經歷疫情嘅呢2年啦。即係我有我經歷嘅 difficulties 啦，然後好似睇翻呢一個劇本咁，呢個女仔佢都係經歷咗好多 difficulties 之後，先至可以開得成一間餐館，再俾人打劫，即係有好多即係幾場嘅觀眾之前咧，以為開咗餐館就拍手啦，咁就覺得圓滿嘅結局咁樣，但係原來唔係喎，即使我哋開得成個餐館，都要經歷俾人打劫呢件事。咁但係正就係因為咁樣，先至再顯得我哋能夠重拾翻心情，決定繼續開鋪呢一件事，顯得有更加 precious 咯。
咁我哋其實呢套戲咧，即係講流徙之外，亦都係有講關於食㗎嘛。咁其實食都係一個主題啦。咁你覺得食對你嚟講有冇一啲嘢係 connect 到，係咯，或者有咩意義咁樣嘅？
我喺之前即係 Facebook 有 post 過嗰個訪問嘅咧，我已經講過，我係非常之中意食燒味嘅，所以當一開頭太公同埋阿 Paul 講話有叉燒飯嘅時候咧，即係我喺下面做緊形體嘅演出嘅時候，其實係有湧口水嘅。因為我好中意食叉燒，我細個嘅時候，我爸媽係叫我叉燒妹嘅。
咦，咁我估個 technical 上應該差唔多啦。Hi Helen, can you hear me?
Hi, you hear me?
Hi, this is Grace, the company manager of Penn's Theatre. So nice to meet you in the Zoom.
Nice to meet you too, and thank you very much for such a wonderful theatre production.
Yes. So next to me is Ellie. She is the actor who acts you.
Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. Yeah, so in front of us, some audience, they after the show, so they may interest to talk with you and share what they feel after seeing the performance. So before that, there are some questions we would like to ask you first.
Okay.
Okay. So thanks for granting us to adapt your book into our play in 2015. So now is the 4th run of the show. So how's your feeling?
I'm just amazed that you've made such a great show. It's very emotional to see it and hear it. It brings back memories of my grandmother, because she died in 2009. So to hear, you talking about Papa and her journey, it's very special. So thank you.
Okay. So in your book, you have written a lot of food and some cookbook. So I think the food is just not only food. Is there any other meanings to you?
Well, we finally got the cookbook published. I don't know whether you can see that. That's the cookbook. And every recipe that we've created is like a chapter in our family's history. So we talk about, my grandmother's dishes, my mother's dishes, my father's dishes, and also the importance of Hong Kong. when we came to the UK, it's very, very important to keep that culture alive. And the way we keep our culture alive is through food. Because, you know, we love food, we love cooking, we love entertaining people. And so every dish that we cook has got meaning to it. And we've been in the restaurant business now for 20 years. So we've been Sweet Mandarin for 20 years now. It's been a long time, but all those dishes like the curry, the General C sweet and sour chicken, Mabel's clay pot chicken, we still serve it today at Sweet Mandarin. And that's how we keep the family stories alive. That's how we honour our family. And in a way, it's like our family heirlooms. It's what we can share with the UK and share with you know, our customers, and also share with a lot of Hong Kong people that come to the UK. So it's really nice to, you know, to meet them and share our life with them as well.
So now almost 20 years to change your career. Now, looking back, so how do you think about your decision?
Well, my mum and dad said that I was very stupid because it's very prestigious to be a lawyer. But actually, you know, I'm still using the law to operate my business. I'm still using the knowledge that I've learned as a professional to manage our various businesses. We do sauces, we have a restaurant, we write books, we do talks. And in the UK, this was also made into a theatre show. We also have launched numerous books about cooking. So actually, it's quite a good career. And it's something that we love, so it doesn't really feel like a job. And I think that's really important nowadays, is to really love what you do. Because, you know, if I'm honest, life is very short.
I see, that's great. So now maybe I ask maybe audience, see if there is any questions want to ask about you or about the play. 係或者大家有冇對於今日嘅演出有啲咩問題啊、分享啊，想問我哋演員啊，或者Helen 咁樣呢？咁不妨可以舉手，可以大家 share。中間嗰位。要用咪啊，因為Helen 要需要聽到。
Thank you, Helen and everybody. I'm really amazed and enjoyed by the performance. So I would like to ask, okay, throughout the history of your family, when did you really pick up all these little details between your grandmom and your mom and your father? Because that's very delicate.
It is. You know, Chinese families do not like to wear their dirty linen in public. It was really, really emotional and a family decision for me to write the book. And the way I learned the story was actually going shopping with my grandmother every Saturday. So every Saturday we go shopping for the Chinese groceries, for the restaurant, and also for home. And you know, she'd pick up a packet or a bottle, and little stories would be told to me as a child. For example, she would go past the alcohol aisle and she picked up a bottle of very strong Mutai, which is 40% proof. She went, that stuff killed your grandfather. If only it killed him sooner. And then she would walk away. And I was like, what happened? So I wanted to know more about the family stories. I wanted to know more about all these characters that was talked about in my childhood. So I would ask my grandmother loads of questions about the family, and you know, you could hear whispers about you know, good things and bad things about the family history. And slowly, my grandmother would tell me about it. And so I would, you know, write a little journal every week, And that is basically what formed the book. Our family has had a lot of difficulties. It's not been an easy ride. And I think the hardest bit was the gambling. And unfortunately, in particular with the Chinese community in the UK, gambling is a really, really prevalent issue that's not talked about. And when I approached my dad and said, look, can I write about this in the book? He said, our family lost everything to gambling. We're lucky to actually have enough money to keep you guys, and he said, look, if somebody can learn and avoid the mistakes that we've been through, then I will give you my blessing to write about this very, very difficult time for the family. And so it was a concerted effort talking with my family members before I even agreed to write the book. Because in actual fact, all I wanted to write was a cookbook, with my sister Lisa. Like I said, it's these little stories behind the food. It's quite light. But when I took this idea to my friend who's a literary agent, and she took it to the publishing houses, it was Random House that said, look, can we write the story first and do the cookbook later? And I thought, I'm not sure about writing a book because I don't really write. I'm not a writer. But they said, look, nobody's talked about the journey from Guangzhou to Hong Kong to the UK. There's no British-born Chinese author that shared that story. That, in actual fact, when I was growing up, 90% of Chinese came from that journey, from Hong Kong. So when I heard that, I was really shocked, because how can in the 21st century we have no representation in literature? Nothing talked about or written about, our heritage, our history as a nation. And that's what compelled me to write the book. So it's a very, it's a book that goes back 100 years. But it's not an even book. It doesn't do 3 equal parts. It mainly focuses on my grandmother, and then a little bit about my mom, and then the last chapter really is about us, because when I wrote it, we'd only just launched Sweet Mandarin, so I hadn't really got a story to talk about for myself. But yeah, it's been a very sensitive project, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have written it, because it gave me a sense of understanding about me and how I fit into the world. And what am I doing this for? Why am I doing a restaurant when I could be, working in Central in Hong Kong as a lawyer? I don't know. You have to know what your reason is in life. And for us, it's the food business. It's there's not many people of my generation doing food now. Everybody's left the industry. Even in Chinatown in Manchester, there's so many big restaurants that have finished and closed. Their sons and daughters don't want to carry on the tradition, which is quite sad, because that is really one of the core centerpieces of being Chinese. It's the food, isn't it? It's what unites a nation. It's what breaks down all these walls. It's what gives people that opportunity to make friends for life. And, food really is that connector.
So when you talk about the closure of the restaurant in Chinatown, so I just wonder, now the COVID has occurred since 2020, so already 2 years. So any impact on your restaurant, and how do you survive?
Well, COVID has been awful for everybody. I could never imagine seeing this kind of experience in my whole life. And everybody in the UK around March 2020 had to close the doors, so we couldn't open to any members of the public. We could only do takeaway. And I really thought, oh gosh, I don't know whether I can survive this. This is going to be really, really tough. So we just did takeaway. And what I started to do to the customers is started to write them little letters. So I said, dear St. John, thank you for your order. You've helped to save a small family business from going bankrupt with your order. We really appreciate your support. And we wrote these little letters, different letters to everybody. Whoever ordered to take away, we gave them like messages of support, like, thanks for your order. I know things are tough, but we're going to get through this together. And I hope to see you at the restaurant when we're allowed to open. And slowly we built up great friendships, and we wrote hundreds of these letters for everybody that ordered takeaway. And what I've done is on Instagram, our handle is sweet.mandarin. I saved all the letters because people would send it back to us with a picture of their food. And that is such a very special experience, because when the lockdown happened in the UK, it was so isolating. You couldn't see anybody. You're just in a little bubble. There were so many measures to protect and, look after everybody, but there was no connection. So these letters were like very, very poignant to firstly tell people that we still care for you, we're still here, but also they returned the favor and the love. And they're the ones that kept us going throughout this very difficult time. And without customers, it's game over. And they've kept us going. And then the really great thing is when we were out to open again on the 17th of May, 2022, all these customers that we've been writing letters to, they came back to the restaurant. And they showed me the letters that we've been writing and putting in their takeaway bag, and it was just amazing. And that's how we built up our very loyal following. Because not only do they love the food, but we do care about the community, and we can make a difference.
So I'm sure people who like your food are very happy that we can enjoy the food again in the May of 17th. And I'm sure your Instagram of Sweet Mandarin, I see the picture is so nice. So I think most people will like to come and enjoy the food as well.
Yes, you'd be most welcome, and it'd be our absolute honor to cook for you and look after you.
So I think I can invite our audience to like your Instagram and share your posts, and when they come to Manchester, and they can enjoy the food. So and maybe one last question. Any audience want to ask the last question?
Thank you very much for the great production. I enjoyed the show very much. I think I will go and find the book to read as well. My question is about the end of the drama, where you presented a turn. I think there's the burglar coming to this restaurant and create a little bit of adverse influence on the restaurant. I'd like to ask if there were really arguments between the sisters or among the siblings in really running the business, because that's my interest. I don't have any sibling, but I would imagine my parents would really go against me of doing any business, family business, because that would probably stir some, arguments, things like that. I wonder if that really happened as warned by the father. Thank you.
Yeah, when we as a family sat around the dinner table, me, Lisa, and Janet said, "Look, we'd like to open a restaurant." What we agreed between the three sisters was, if we were ever to argue about business, it's better we don't do this business. I'd rather have a sister than have a business, And okay, you have the odd grumbles with each other, but we're all friends. We all get on. We still see each other, every day, every week. In the end, my dad got used to it. The best advice he gave us was buy the land. don't rent, buy the land. And what me, Lisa and Janet did is we all sold our houses, which was crazy. And we put the money into the land, we bought the land, and then we built on the land. And I think that's the only reason why we're still in existence today. Because a lot of restaurants had to close, they couldn't make enough money as takeaway, and they're still paying extortionate rent. Rent was still being charged during COVID for 2 years. Could you imagine paying rent for 2 years and not having any business? You know, it's game over, right? But because we own the land, you know, we don't need to charge ourselves. So in the end, Dad was like, okay, you know, I guess he's a bit happier now. He loves getting his prawn fried rice from the restaurant, so he's got a place to go, so he's quite happy now. But yeah, he was very, very against the restaurant, and so was my grandmother initially, because it's like, how can you guys give up all that education? How can you give up these really good jobs and do this? It's so risky and it's so hard work, and there's no women in the business, it's all men. How can you control people? Like, you know, if your daichi is like 60 years old and you're 20, they're not going to listen to you, you know? And that's really, it's true. We were faced with that at the beginning. So in the end, Lisa went to cook. And I helped her as well, but Janet was doing front of house and I do front of house. So in the end, we've learned how to make it work for us. And I think that's what's important. You got to be used to things changing in life. If you always think it's going to be the same, you'll be very disappointed. But we've learned to cope with everything and anything. You know, we're used to change. You have to adapt. You have to be entrepreneurial. I think that's the Hong Kong spirit. Hong Kong people are so entrepreneurial. They know how to make opportunity out of nothing. They know how to do business. And I think that's still in our blood. You know, it's in our DNA. So not only did we have to convince ourselves that we could do this business, but we had to convince the family. And then, of course, you have to convince the public we can do this business, and, you know, we're going to give you a fantastic meal. And if I'm honest, you're only as good as your last meal. So you could have done something fantastic for someone for years and years and years, and if you give them one bad meal, they're so unforgiving, they will not come back to you. And it's crazy, but it's true. So yeah, you're always on your toes, but I think what you've got to be able to do is say, look, I've given it my best. My family can see that we've tried, and that's all we can really give. And you know, my mum and dad are very happy now. They're happy that we've got the restaurant, because my, you know, the grandchildren now have a place to go and do their learning and come for some food. You know, it's a family place where it's not just the three sisters, but it's the children now that come to work, come to help, and it's to get them ingrained into business, you know. So after 20 years, I think my dad's finally happy.
Yes, very happy to see you that the restaurant is not only the restaurant, but a place to gather with your family and a place to share the food and have a talk with our family and have a place to share together. So, but I'm sorry, Helen, because time is running out, so we have to stop here. So if the audience have any comments or their feeling want to share, so maybe they can share with us in the questionnaire, or even they can leave the comment in your Instagram. I'm sure you are happy to know more about it. So we are looking forward to see you in Hong Kong in the future. So let's. Yes, thank you very much for your sharing.
Thank you.